heat up your frozen dinners, grab your TV tray, and settle in for another episode of the Plus Platoon, your podcast for all things Disney Plus, brought to you by Disney Plus fans. Watch along with us every week as we cover all the new, the old, the good, and the bad on Disney Plus. So put down that remote, don't touch that dial, and welcome your fabulous Plus Platoon host.
Hey everyone, my name is Derek and I'm one of the members of the Plus Platoon. We are a Disney Plus fan podcast that gives honest, spoiler-filled reviews of movies and shows on Disney Plus. We will look at new releases, coming attractions, and we'll even go back into the vault to revisit some of the classic Disney that's on the platform. Make sure you're subscribed and you will never miss a moment. Let me bring in Kate. Kate, how you doing this evening?
So good. So glad to be back with the tuners.
Still working on that.
We're doing great.
Yeah. Okay. Next, we have Peter. Pete, how you doing this evening?
Hey there, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Doing well.
Hope I'm not lagging too much.
Yeah. Maybe a little. And then we have Sam. Sam, how you doing this evening?
Good. Happy Platoosday, everyone.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here. Platoosday or Platoonsday. We haven't decided which one, but I like it.
It's coming along. So, so normally we would have Kate do the Disney Plus news, but Kate's having some technical difficulties at the moment. So,
do you want me to cover it?
Sam, go for it.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to your Disney Plus news update. So first, we've got Chip 'n Dale Park Life series is going to premiere on Disney Plus on July 28th. So that's tomorrow, everyone. We'll hopefully be talking about that sometime in the near future. The next thing we want to make sure you know about is that Jungle Cruise, the movie, is coming to Disney Plus premiere on Friday. That means it doesn't come as a part of your regular subscription. It is an add-on. It's about $30 to watch that. And then, of course, in a few months, it will come to the regular Disney Plus subscription. Another thing that's coming out is season 2 of The Wonderful World of Mickey Mouse premieres on Friday. So there'll be more Mickey Mouse shorts for those fans. And then new Goofy cartoons are going to debut on August 11th. There's going to be a series of How to Stay at Home. So that should be fun. And that is our Disney Plus news.
That sounds very exciting. Kate, give me a thumbs up if you're back.
I think I don't have an echo, right?
No, you're good.
Okay,
you do not have an echo, right?
Okay, perfect. Yeah, all of a sudden my headphones were like, "Joke's on you. We're not going to work anymore."
Yeah, that's what you get for going to Apple. So,
they decided that they wanted me to do the news today. Apparently,
yeah. So tonight we are talking about the new show Behind the Attraction. This is going to be a show. In theory, there's 10 episodes. They've released 5 of them. And they are going to talk about the background stories of certain Disney attractions. And we watched the first 2 this week. First one we watched was the Jungle Cruise. So, Pete, are you laughing at the jokes or are you groaning at the puns?
Oh, well, I like groaning at puns. So I don't know. This is a tough one because I like both of those options. But yeah, I enjoyed the show. It is very much so for those that have seen the Imagineering story, that is definitely a more straightforward, newsy take on Disney and the Imagineering. This is definitely I'm going to say a pop version of talking about the different attractions, but I still found it interesting. There were a few things that I found out that I didn't really know about. Particularly when they were talking about that when they built the Jungle Cruise, that I forget the Imagineer that did it, but he took a stick and he drew a line in the desert and then he drew another line in the other 15 feet away, and that was where they dug the trench for the boat path. But it's definitely some aspects of it. It was a little bit of an ad for The Rock and Emily Blunt's Jungle Cruise. I'm glad they didn't overwhelm that aspect of it. There was probably a few minutes of that, and so there you definitely saw that there was some of that cross promotion going on. But overall, I think like if you're not super familiar with the attractions, I think there's a lot of information in there, a lot of information about the history. I like that they talk about the different attractions around the world. And overall, is it the best behind the scenes Disney show I've ever seen? No, but I did enjoy the episode, and I really I love the bad jokes. So maybe because I'm a dad, they're definitely dad jokes, and I had a lot of fun with it. What about you, Sam?
So I will say I do love the ride, the Jungle Cruise, and I also love the dad jokes and the puns on the ride. But I found this documentary to be a total groaner. I honestly, I thought it was boring. There was really nothing new that I learned that I hadn't seen in previous Imagineering series. I just didn't feel like it was anything. Frankly, the Imagineering series was so much better and more in depth, and without some of this pop ad stuff for the new Jungle Cruise movie, which I'm planning on watching, to be perfectly, transparent. I'm planning probably on paying. Actually, Brian's planning on paying for it on Premiere, and so I'll watch it. I would have probably waited, but he really wants to see it. So yeah, I just thought it was a ho-hum episode. I got up to like make food during it. It did not captivate my attention. It wasn't like, terrible. It just was kind of boring. And for those of us who are, pretty big Disney fans, I really just didn't learn anything new. What do you think about it, Derek?
I would pretty much agree, Sam. If you are a true hardcore Disney file, you're not going to learn anything new about the Jungle Cruise. I mean, if it was all information that I had seen or read about somewhere else, I really did not like the movie tie-in. I really didn't like the movie tie-in. Now, when you see Dwayne Johnson as one of the executive producers, you kind of got to deal with it.
Totally.
But if it would have been a better show if they would have simply cut the movie tie-ins. Just cut that part out of it and made it 5 minutes less. It would have at least been more pure parks, if that makes sense. I'm going to agree that Imagineering story was much more in depth. I think for those people who haven't done a lot of reading and who haven't done a lot of watching different things, yes, you could learn some stuff about Jungle Cruise. It was neat to see them driving the truck through the riverbed to get an idea on how things are going. I love the story of Walt getting a 4-minute cruise because the guy was so nervous he just floored it the whole way around. So it's interesting though, they still shoot the pistols at Disneyland. They don't shoot them at Disney World anymore, and they haven't for years. So
I didn't even realize that. I'm learning a fact here. But yeah. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And that the pistols are actually a signal for that the next boat is at this certain spot. Okay. But yeah, they haven't shot it at Magic Kingdom for years. So Kate, what do you think about Jungle Cruise?
Yeah. I loved it. I'll be honest, I didn't grow up a Disney kid. Derek and I have talked a little bit about this. I didn't grow up a Disney kid going to the parks or anything like that. In fact, I went once when I was 5, and then I didn't go again until I was 23 and started to work there. I think I may have gone one other time when I was 21. But anyway, so I didn't realize that the Jungle Cruise was such an important ride to Walt. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize that it was such a Disney legacy, for lack of a better term. I just didn't know. And so I found it fascinating. Also, I thought it was really cool that it wasn't intended to be funny at first. Because that is, and I've learned this also from working in the parks, that if you are a jungle skipper, that is an elite club to be a part of. Like once you once you can say you were a jungle skipper, I mean, skippers can sit and talk to each other for hours, much like anyone who you realize you've worked together. But so I thought that was fascinating, and that Walt wanted real animals. It made me think that Walt would be so excited to now see Animal Kingdom, because I think in a way Animal Kingdom was kind of, and this is a stretch, and again, this is just 100% my opinion, that Animal Kingdom kind of brought to life what he had sort of wanted Jungle Cruise to be. So I thought it was fascinating. I learned a lot. I also loved how the guy just took the stick and drew the lines for the river. And I mean, I can tell you from a cast member's experience that those sounds very rarely turn off. And when you are walking backstage, you hear all of it. So it made me think about days of working at Disney and doing the day parade, when we would be walking to or from parade and we'd hear those sounds. It made me, when they were talking about Walt not being able to sleep because of hearing the sounds over his apartment, that just, I love that. It made it a little bit more nostalgic. And I love being able to hear stories like that about Walt. So I loved it. I thought it was great.
I will say there is an audio recording of Thurl Ravenscroft doing the original narration for it, and it's very serious, and it's very much a, this is and it's an adventure trip. It's a true life adventure trip rather than a fun journey.
Wow! Oh my gosh!
Oh yeah,
is it on the
record that has that? This is the B-side of this record has the Thurl Ravenscroft, and so this is available from Disney Records now. Again,
cool.
I would be curious. I'm going to see if I can find out. I'm curious now as to why they took the pistol shot out of Walt Disney World. I'm curious. I'm going to do some research. I'll come back to all of you when I find out the answer behind that.
Yeah. I also like the fact that they did figure out how to get the animals where they wanted them. They blast air conditioning in the safari where they want the animals to lay. Yeah, there's an air conditioner blowing right down where the lions sit.
Right.
That sounds right. I mean, that's where I would lay if I was a lion. So yeah.
My dog, one of my two dogs, the female always lays on top of the air conditioning vent right next to her kennel. So it is like, that's a thing. Animals want to cool off too. If you put an air conditioning vent, that's where they're going to lay if they're hot. Only my female dog, my male dog doesn't do that.
Okay. Now, so the first one
I do want to make one.
Cruise. Go ahead.
One more comment on this. I agree with what Kate. I think if you're like super duper Disney nerdy that you want to know all the behind the scenes facts, you might not learn a lot from this series. But I think for the average Disney Parks fan that enjoys the parks but doesn't necessarily like that Disney nerd side as much, I think there's a lot to these episodes. I think there's a lot you can still glean from them.
Yeah. I think you're right about that.
And Brian does say he's going to be downloading Jungle Cruise for the flight to Aulani Saturday for sure.
Yep.
So,
see, I told you.
The other episode we watched was The Haunted Mansion. Okay. Kate, was the Haunted Mansion episode scary or satisfying?
I loved it. Haunted Mansion is one of my favorite attractions at Disney World. I unfortunately have never gotten to ride the one at Disneyland, so I've got to make sure that I get out there at some point to ride it. But I didn't learn as much about this as I did from the Jungle Cruise episode, because this one, I think it might have been in one of the Imagineering episodes. They talked about attractions, and they think they covered a bit about the Haunted Mansion. So some of that was repeat information. One of the things that I did just think was fascinating, I didn't realize that the Haunted Mansion at land wasn't, wasn't part of when the park opened. It wasn't an original part of the park, and that Walt never got to see Haunted Mansion completed. And I loved how when it kind of came to be, they were like, is it scary? Is it funny? Is it scary? Is it funny? I feel like that's like my life in a nutshell. Is it scary? Is it funny? I don't know. So And I loved how they said, when Walt passed, they lost their leader, and that this is kind of what happened. Is it's scary and funny. And then listening to them say that and being like, oh my gosh, you're right. When you start the ride, like, it's not funny and it is kind of unsettling. And I mean, gosh, the one in Disney World, like there's a guy hanging, like there's like a lot. But then by the end, you hear the grim grinning ghosts. I also, and this, I'll pass it off after this, did not know that they told this little tidbit in the Haunted Mansion episode. I didn't realize that the Yo-Ho, Yo-Ho, A Pirate's Life for Me song was written for the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. I never knew that.
Yeah.
And the person who wrote that also helped with the Grim Grinning Ghosts song. And that is just, it's so cool to me. So that's what I've got. Go ahead, Pete.
I kind of agree with you. I don't feel like I learned as much from this one because there is a lot of information out there about the Haunted Mansion. A little bit about, I kind of knew the design, that there were these different Imagineers working on it and kind of with conflicting ideas. I continually find it fascinating that like they built the exterior in like 1962 or something like that. And it was, it wasn't open until 1969. So people complain now about the, Cosmic Rewind is taking 3 years. Could you imagine if they built a ride facade today and it wasn't open until 2028? People would be flipping out.
I don't know. They haven't finished Tron yet.
So I didn't, from my perspective, I didn't get as much information out of this one. But I still, again, I just enjoy hearing, especially when they go into the past of it and they get the older Imagineers interviews and bring those up. I always feel like, am I getting 40 minutes of new information? No, I'm not, but I'm getting enough new information that I enjoyed the show. And I didn't think, well, in some ways it was better than the Jungle Cruise because I said they weren't advertising a movie in the middle of the show. So that part was good. What did you think, Sam?
So I agree this one was better than the Jungle Cruise episode, but I still didn't love it. I still found a lot of the information to be stuff that I've seen on other shows about Imagineering, about rides. The one thing I did enjoy from this was the comparison across the different haunted mansions in different countries. So the Disneyland Paris and the Asian parks, right? Like I liked actually finding out what lands the Haunted Mansion was. I thought that part.
And Brian
was really
agrees
funny.
with you. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So I thought that part was actually probably the most interesting, part of the show. But again, it wasn't terrible or anything. And it is a good, if you hadn't seen some other things, it's probably a good, like Pete said, 40 minutes of information. I just didn't think it was that well done of a documentary. I've seen better documentaries done by Disney. I felt the same way about of course, agree better because it wasn't an advertisement for a movie. Yeah. But it was still, this series so far is just kind of meh for me. It's not as good as some other documentary series I've seen about rides and attractions, about Imagineering at Disney World or Disneyland. And so, I don't know that I'm going to really be tuning in for the entire series now. Derek?
I liked the fact that it wasn't the ad for the movie. Funny thing about that, my boy goes, they should make a Haunted Mansion movie. And I didn't have we had to break the Eddie Murphy news to him.
There is.
Yeah. I thought this was a lot more fluff than the actual behind the scenes building of the Jungle Cruise. Only thing I hadn't thought about, but was the fact that they basically made 2 of everything so that it could because if I'm correct, it was an opening day thing at Magic.
Yes.
Yeah. Sure.
Yes,
so, so it is something where they basically made 2 of everything so they could have the Magic Haunted Mansion ready. And you saw that with the duplicate paintings.
It's literally what I was crossing my fingers to talk about was the duplicates. I loved that.
Yeah. Other than that, the Pepper's Ghost thing, I think most people knew that that's how that was done. Is it serious versus is it funny? I actually knew that. That it was basically a yes kind of answer. I know I'm kind of with Sam. I'm not looking forward to the rest of the series as much as I thought I was going to. Because of some of the production quality and some of the fact quality is not there. It's geared more towards, hey, you want to go to Disney World and come up with some facts for your friends for the first time.
Yeah.
Watch this show. It's not I was hoping for more in-depth stuff. I was hoping for more, we're going to keep going on it at least next week, but I'm hoping it improves.
So
Perfect.
I do want to say
Alani next week.
I do want to say my family was enjoying it, and we actually watched 3 episodes. We watched the Tower of Terror episode, and I would recommend to the team that you at least watch that episode, because
next week,
not thinking about it, those early rides, we know a lot about those, but Tower of Terror is a more modern ride and a lot more modern incarnations of it. And I found that I actually learned more from that episode of Tower of Terror than I did from these 2 episodes. So I wouldn't give up on it
teaser
yet.
for next week, Pete.
See, but okay, so let's ask this question before we jump to the next thing real quick, is what is an attraction that you would actually want to know the history of? And what, like, mine is the Great Movie Ride. I loved the Great Movie Ride. And I know that was not short-lived, but I also probably wouldn't mind knowing some of the history behind Splash Mountain. Why make Splash Mountain? Like, I get it. It's part of the movie. It's from Song of the South, but go ahead, Derek.
Do you know why they did Splash Mountain? Is because they had all those audio animatronics left over from America Sings. And they thought, what can we use it for? Let's do Splash Mountain. And it was called Splash Mountain because of the Disney movie Splash that was coming out. It has nothing to do with Brer Rabbit and Brer Bear.
So it doesn't have, it wasn't solely because of Song of the South. See, that to me, like, I know and the next one is Star Tours. And sure, that's interesting to me, but there are other, like, Tower of Terror or, oh gosh, I can think of.
For me, the different iterations of Space Mountain around the world.
Yeah, that would be interesting. That's interesting.
The Paris one is amazing.
Yeah.
At least when it was the Jules Verne stuff. So Brian does say he loved the Haunted Mansion one. Ryan says he loves shows like this. Haunted Mansion with the Christmas overlay is the greatest ever. I will admit, I've never been out to Disneyland, so I've never seen the Christmas overlay. And
I've never seen it either.
In the international,
it's funny. I actually haven't, even though I've been to Disneyland around Christmas. It was closed when I was there the last time.
Yeah.
So.
And Brian said international comparison was really cool. Yeah, especially when they went into, was it Hong Kong Disneyland and Shanghai Disneyland? How the different treatment of ghosts and the dead ancestors meant they had to completely rewrite it.
Yep.
And Ryan says, yeah, great to have a show that just does the international comparisons.
I agree with you there, Ryan.
So, yeah. Okay. The other new thing that came out this week was the TV series Turner and Hooch. Okay. So, Sam, we're going to start with you. Is it man's best friend, or does it need to be headed to the pound?
No.
Oh, gosh. This needs to be headed to the pound. I'm sorry. This is not a good start to a new series. Very quickly, I figured out that the main character is supposed to be Tom Hanks's character's son, but it doesn't actually line up with how the movie ended. It's just not good. It starts out like as cheesy as Cheeseball can get. The main character is basically an OCD neat freak, and inherits this slobbering, messy hellion of a dog. And of course he's a cop as well. And then of course the dog ends up having all these skills to be a police dog, and then now is his, canine partner, having not been through any kind of canine academy or anything like that. So it's just cheesy, ridiculous. It does, towards the end of the episode, does have a few heartwarming moments. So I will give it that. There's a couple of heartwarming moments that you finally get between him and the dog later in the episode. But this is just a groaner. It's terrible. I'm not watching any more episodes. And yeah, that's it, Derek.
Yeah, the end was kind of the end of every Full House episode.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
This thing needs to go to the pound and kind of be put out of its own misery. Basically, episode 1 was a 45-minute version of the entire first movie. I mean, down to the fact that the cops were in on it and they have to get rid of the cop. I mean, it's only thing that doesn't happen is Hooch doesn't get shot in this one. The romantic love interest. Have you never seen the movie?
Kate
I have seen the movie, but it
Hooch
has
gets shot
so
and
long.
dies.
Right. Exactly.
But then he and the border collie had a date night, and so there were puppies, including one that is basically a baby Hooch. To me, a guy naming a dog that he got at the shelter the same name that he named his other dog, who does that? I mean,
exactly. That's why I said it doesn't line up with the end of the earlier movie, right? That just doesn't make any sense. He would have had even if he got the same breed of dog, he would have given it its own name. It's just too, yeah.
And you don't see full-blooded Dog de Bordeaux's at a pound. So,
fair.
I mean, those are expensive dogs. So, this thing needs to be headed to the pound, and I don't see anyone coming in to try and adopt it. So, Kate.
Okay,
it's feral.
You know what? I didn't hate it. Especially all of you had watched it before I did, and so I saw some of your just like little reactions, because we really, for those of you watching, we really don't talk a lot about everything until we come on the show. We'll give a little quips here and there, but we don't. So anyway, I knew that it wasn't your all's favorite, but I went in thinking that it was going to be quite terrible. And I was pleasantly surprised. Was I pleasantly surprised because I went in thinking that it was just going to be god awful? Yes. Here's the thing. And oh Lord, I hope I don't lose every single person's respect for this. I am not a dog person.
It's fair.
And when I say that, I love dogs, but I want to give them back. And part of that is because any dog that I have ever dog sit, like even when I took them out and treated them really well, they marked their territory all over my house, and they ate things and they ripped things. And so I just probably haven't been shown the best like dog owning practices, because every time I'm like, this is awful. So when it was the scene of him and his house is destroyed, I was like, oh, this is a perfect render. This is what I need to show people when I say I'm really not a dog person. I love petting dogs. It's kind of like babies. I love babies until they pee and cry, and then I want to hand them back. So it did spark my anxiety a tiny bit when like the dog just licked everything and ate everything, but we've watched worse things.
Yes.
We have watched worse things.
Jane,
Own the Room.
On the Room.
We have watched.
Own the Room was not worse. No way, you guys. I will
You
take
think?
it. Yes, Own the Room was way better than this. Own the Room was enjoyable to me. Jane was terrible.
Jane was
really
terrible.
bad.
This is better than Jane by a lot, but a lot worse than Own the Room.
I'll concede that. I'll give you that. So I'd give it a 2. Maybe
That's pretty generous.
1.8, 2-ish. So, Pete, you go.
Okay, I had such low expectations for this. I was really dreading this. I'm kind of like you, Kate. I like dogs. I'm not a dog owner. But in general, I like dogs. I don't like big slobbery dogs that tear things up. I'm the same way, like watching that. I don't find it funny. I don't find it entertaining. I knew that was coming, and that's probably why I was not looking forward to the show. So I tried to be like, say, okay, I'm going to have low expectations. I'm going to try to go in this with a clear conscience. 10 minutes in, I hated it. I hated this show. I did not want to. This is the first thing we've watched, even more so than Jane, that I did not want to finish it. I don't even know. It was stupid and predictable, and I couldn't get past that they like turned Hooch into like a super dog by the end of it, that he could like read minds, and I don't know, that all this not really, but like, you know, they were basically saying he can do all these things. And then the love interest thing, that this girl was instantly smitten with this kind of annoying guy. I didn't like that.
Annoying.
And I just like, I was very glad it was over. The thing that astounded me the most is that this show is produced by Matt Nix, who made the show Burn Notice, which
so
I
good.
adore that show.
So good.
And I was like, this is the same guy that made that show. And I don't know. It was, I'm not watching any more of it. That's all I'll say. And
I have to agree with you about the main character. The character was not likable, very annoying. I
Totally
think
predictable.
Totally predictable. It's interesting to me because he was apparently on that show Drake and Josh, which was a big. I didn't watch it. It's for people quite a bit younger than me, but it was on the Disney Channel, and so it was kind of a big hit. And so he was one of the two brothers on Drake and Josh, I believe, and so he was a Disney. You know, like some of these kids coming up. You know, he was a Disney star, but now he's trying to play a male lead. It was, I don't know if it's him or it's the part that was written for him or what, but it was just bad, and he was not likable. Like I said, by the end I found there were a couple of heartwarming moments, but I want to tell you, I am a total dog lover, so I don't think that has anything to do with your opinion of this show. I have 2 dogs. I'm obsessed with them. I love other people's dogs, even slobbery ones. My dogs pee in my house and I deal with it because I love them. So it has, and they destroy things. It's just their dogs.
It's a dog.
Animals.
I get it.
It's a dog thing.
I will say,
but I love dogs.
That the part when the trainer is like, sit, lay, roll over, it very much reminded me of the Animal Actor show over at Universal Studios. Where I was like, okay, I've seen this before when I visited the Across Town theme park. So yeah.
And Sam, you did bring up an interesting point that Ryan echoed. What's the target audience for this? It's not kids.
No, I have
no
idea.
It's not teenagers.
Yeah.
It's people our age that have liked Turner and Hooch and think, oh, I want to see more of that without Tom Hanks.
Yeah. And it's funny because, I did see, Turner and Hooch with Tom Hanks many, many years ago and kind of remember thinking it was a cute movie. I haven't seen it in so many years. So I kind of, I have such a vague memory of it, to be perfectly honest. So it doesn't stand out in my mind, but I kind of remember it being, cute, but yeah, I was not really thrilled or excited to watch this series to begin with, but then watching it was like, oh God, this is just bad. Brian's commenting, target audience is my mother. She'll watch anything with a dog in it. He's talking about his mother, not my mother. But he's actually right that she will watch anything with a dog in it. See, I'm not like that, but she watches like Hallmark movies, like 365.
I mean, I can see someone where either a Hallmark movie would be a great target audience for these.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's what it reminded me of, was a Hallmark movie.
I'd rather watch a Hallmark movie. And I some of those are pretty cheesy. Some of them are fine. They're just kind of mindless entertainment. But
You will say this like I don't love the Hallmark 25 Days of Christmas.
Well, I like the Christmas ones too. It's I have to say the Hanukkah ones were terrible. But I do like the Christmas ones.
I know. I'd rather see what ball game's on personally. But so next week,
I'd rather watch Hallmark movies than this.
Yeah.
They're better.
Yeah. So next week we have more behind the attractions. We've got the Star Tours episode and the Tower of Terror. I'm looking forward to these because, again, these are ones that aren't out there everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm excited for Tower of Terror, actually.
Yeah.
I'm not so much for Star Tours, but Tower of Terror, like Pete made some good points about, we haven't seen that much of the behind the scenes from that ride. And so that we may get some new information for us Disney nerds.
Yeah.
Have they said how many episodes there's going to be total?
In theory, there's 10. They've only released 5, though. And they were going to originally release all 10. So I don't know what's going on there. We'll see what comes out tomorrow. Mm-hmm. We're also going to be talking about the Robin Roberts series, Turning the Tables, which is where she's sitting down with all these powerful female figures in sports and entertainment. And so we'll also be discussing that next week. If you have suggestions for us, please email plusplatoon@gmail.com. We are on Facebook. We are on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. We are on every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. And with that, everyone, I would like to say goodnight. So have a great evening, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye. I'm going to go watch.
Bye.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of the Plus Platoon. Be sure to subscribe to the Plus Platoon podcast to keep getting great content each week. Then head over to Apple Podcast and leave those 5-star reviews as they help make the Plus Platoon visible to even more Disney Plus fans. Also, go to YouTube and like and subscribe to the Plus Platoon channel, where you can watch all future episodes live. If you have a question for the Plus Platoon, please send us an email to plusplatoon@gmail.com or connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @plusplatoon.
The Plus Platoon is a Disney Plus fan podcast and is not affiliated with the Walt Disney Company or the Disney Plus streaming service. All opinions expressed on the show are solely those of the individual hosts and in no way reflect the views of the Walt Disney Company.
Thanks for watching, and be sure to stay tuned for next week's episode because the Plus Platoon is to be continued.